On to reports, superintendent report.
All right, this Thursday, so this would be the 20th, Booster Club is hosting their purple and gold scrimmage. So you're all invited to attend, whether or not you have someone in high school sports or not. 4:30 is volleyball in our main gym. And then our football is holding open practice during that 4:30 to 6-ish window. And then the meal will be at 6:30. It is tacos, I believe. So if you have the opportunity to attend this Thursday, would encourage you to do so and come out and support the kids. As far as our games go, just while we're on the theme of athletics, our first football game is next Friday, the 28th. And then cross country is headed to a meet that same weekend, and volleyball is going to Columbus. So everyone dives right into their very first competitions, not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Is the first football game against Columbus?
Nope, it is against Deer Lodge, so Howell County, yeah. Yeah, and they are coming to us, so we are hosting. As you can see when you were walking in, we are finishing up our facilities project. So I really want to thank Scott Frigo and his crew, his custodial crew. They did a really fantastic job this summer getting our buildings ready. But beyond that, Scott in particular really helped to manage a lot of facilities projects. We had a very busy summer with that. Just a brief rundown of kind of what happened this summer. We reinstalled roof vents, exhaust vents on the high school roof. Those were originally engineered as part of the system. At some point they were roofed over. This caused air circulation problems in the building. We've now reinstalled those. It has dramatically changed the temperatures in the high school. It's so much cooler in the morning, stays so much cooler throughout the day. We're able to exhaust out our warm, stale air. So really has helped keep us comfortable, which is great and should help with the start of the year when it's so hot. We also restriped our parking lots. Probably noticed that we parked. We redid the flooring in the lobbies right here, and then over in the varsity gym lobby as well, just outside of our varsity gym. I encourage you to walk over there after the meeting if you get the opportunity. It's really nice. It has a big yellow and gold, or gold and purple W in the center of the floor. It's just really welcoming for our opposing teams and our fans as well. So our gym floors all got refinished, all 3 of them. We always do that the last week of July, and that happened again this year. And then as you can see, we're finishing up our painting and siding project. So both of those things are not quite finished, but we're like 90% there. And we should be done within the week. So hopefully we're getting positive feedback on that. I definitely think TIF got a good investment for their money. The TIF board's goal was to reduce blight, and I definitely think the facade looks a lot nicer. So appreciative of the money that TIF gave us for that to help us. And then the pillar in front of the elementary got repaired. That actually ended up being one of the most difficult projects of the summer because we discovered there was actually a water main that was like 18 inches from that pillar. So that resulted in the fix having to take an entirely different direction. They couldn't pier it like they had wanted to, so they ended up foaming around it. It has stabilized that sinking pillar that was in front of the elementary. So that is now repaired as well and structurally sound. Technology-wise, over the summer, we implemented a system called Karina, and this is a form management system and an information management system. So those of you that have kids in sports, you've already interacted with Karina when you signed your kids up. The form feels very much like a Google form, but on the back end, we have a lot of ways of sorting the information, tracking it by kid, seeing who has and hasn't filled out forms, and it's just much more expedient for us and gives us kind of basically information sorting capabilities. So Colton did a lot of work, Colton Anderson, to make that happen. So very appreciative of his efforts this summer in that regard too. We did start off the year with a bit of a technology challenge. Our phones went down yesterday all day. which was not ideal. But they are back up and working and we are in business. So we are ready for the year. We are fully staffed as far as teachers go, so that is great. And we currently have one para vacancy, which is why we have an advertisement still for a para position. And we have always openings for substitute teachers. So if there's anyone out there that wants to sub, by all means, send them our direction. But we are ready to go for the year. School starts tomorrow, as you know, and teachers were in today training. They're excited to be here. It was a very positive first day and looking forward to the year. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
The TIF, you mentioned the funding from TIF, I guess I'm not familiar.
Sure. It's the tax increment fund, which is a city administered fund that is contributed to from school taxes, county taxes, and town taxes, which are diverted to the TIF district. And TIF districts exist for a period of 15 years. Ours has 2 more years before it expires. And when it expires, those funds will revert to those 3 entities. And then our tax base, like our taxable, I guess our tax revenue increases by that amount. It's roughly $300,000 a year in revenue that our school district contributes to the various TIFs that are in our district. We have 2. So we have one, which is the Whitehall TIF, which does town improvement projects like the sidewalks, that kind of stuff. And then there is also the Golden Sunlight TIF, which has funded that those commercial buildings out by the mine. Yeah, so those TIFs were formed roughly at the same time. And when they expire, our revenue will increase. And then if they choose to do another TIF, it resets at the current tax rate. So it doesn't have as great of an impact in the immediate time, but over time it kind of compounds. So it's a brief rundown on a TIF. I did do a presentation on TIFs previously, and I can get you some more information on it if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. On to new business. The higher career and technical education teacher, Eric Smith.
Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes. So at the end of the school year, we did not have a business ed teacher built schedule without that. Then we were lucky enough to discover Eric Smith, a community member. He has a background. He has 12 years of military service and then ran a cabinet shop in Washington. He has a bachelor's in psychology and was able to bring a lot of real world experience in his job, his career technical education job. We built a schedule for him that's slanted towards his strengths. I would call it industrial tech base. So we'll have 2 periods of woodworking. Currently our shop program is heavily ag, as the board's aware of. It's kind of taken that direction in the last 4 years. With that, it's not as strong as we would like in some of those traditional trade areas. Mr. Smith has the background and abilities to add to that. So we'll be doing 2 periods of woodworking. We'll be doing 2 periods of business and marketing, high school. Like I said, he has a background. He had 30 employees in a successful cabinet shop and has taught. He really likes economics. He did in the military some teaching with troops, right? So how do you cross-train that over? And he'll have 2 periods of traditional, I don't know if that's traditional, but middle school computers or tech classes. So as technology has evolved in the world of education, everything from teaching keyboarding to their access to what we're doing in elementary school as they come in, that continues to change. Like, where do the kids come in and what do they know, what do they not, what don't they know, right? So he's a promising new educator. He's a non-traditional educator. We're very excited to bring him. He has the maturity of a person with some experience under his belt, and he'll be new to our staff. So I definitely support the recommendation of Eric Smith as our new 612 position in business industrial technology.
All right, do we have a motion?
A motion to approve Eric Smith as the career and technology education teacher.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. All right, next thing, hire paraprofessionals. I'm just gonna say hire paraprofessionals and leave it at
We'll
that.
let Curtis take it.
Okay. We actually did have a reasonably good-sized pool of applicants this time. Mrs. Neeskins advertised on Indeed, and we were actually able to broaden our net, which turned out very, very nicely because we ended up with some good candidates. Susan Bunton, Ms. Bunton actually has teaching experience in Texas and in Nevada. So she's interviewed exceptionally well. She understands kids, she understands schools, and she's been looking for a way to get into Montana to develop what she refers to as a home base. So she's excited to be here, and she brings with her some experience in the resource room as well as in the regular classroom for instruction. So I'm very excited to work with her. Ms. Wayne is an aspiring teacher. She has worked with children in various separate entities throughout the last several years, and she loves to work with kids and mentioned multiple times that she is interested in becoming a teacher. I'm excited to introduce her to the Para Pathways, which is a program for professional development and training for paraprofessionals. One of our paras has actually completed that training. It will be a good resource for her. So again, very excited for her. Good interview, strong interview there. And some of you may recognize Mr. Clausen. He's actually a graduate from Whitehall. 4 years ago, he graduated from Whitehall. He will be the third staffer that we have brought on that is kind of a part of this Grow Your Own program, where we've worked with these kids and they want to come back here and be a part of the system that helped grow them. And it's a great benefit because he knows the district, he knows his way around, and in this case, knows some of the teachers that taught him when he went through elementary there. So a very good candidate pool there. They did an outstanding job in para orientation today, asked good questions, we're excited. So I encourage you to hire them.
All right, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to hire the paraprofessionals. I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. All right, approve elementary handbook revisions.
Okay, I sent out a copy of this a few days ago, and then I know you got another copy sent from Alyssa. I'm prepared, I can handle this however you'd like. I'm prepared to just go through and talk about the high points. If you have any questions, please just let me know. The bulk of the changes were changing the board policy numbers because we went through an overhaul there. And in large part, it's just editorial changes. On page 4, I did add portrait of a graduate. I wanted that to be in our handbook. It's something that we're really we are pushing. It's part of our mission statements, part of our goals as a school and as a district. So I wanted the parents to have the opportunity to read about it there on page 4. The next change revolves around attendance. I wanted to clean up the language in there, giving parents some actionable guidance on this is what you do when your child is going to be gone, and some times in there for when they need to call, how we are going to deal with absences. And so I cleaned up the language a little bit there and added some more guidance for parents. Then the next change comes on page 11, pertaining to cell phones. The way that it used to read was that the students could use a cell phone as determined by a doctor or school officials. I found that to be inadequate. I wanted it to be specific in there. The only way students are allowed to have a cell phone on their person is if it's expressly required under the legal document, which is an IEP, a 504, a health plan, or applicable law. We are really taking seriously the crackdown on cell phone use. They're not allowed on the district. They're just not allowed to be used during the district day. So We wanted to make sure that that was abundantly clear for all parents. I referenced on several occasions in there the applicable policy. A good example would be on page 12, the grievance procedures. I wanted to direct families, community members to our website where step-by-step processes are laid out for them. So that was on there as well. I did put in a piece about artificial intelligence in our code of conduct, engaging in dishonesty in academic work, plagiarism, cheating. It's unauthorized use of artificial intelligence. I wanted that to have its place in there so that as artificial intelligence becomes more prevalent, even in the elementary, I wanted there to be very clear policy that this is not going to be accepted. We can have a longer conversation on AI and its impact in school at a later date, but I wanted there to be some procedure that they could follow. On page 17, this pertains to the 5th grade human sexuality lessons, which is something that happens every single year. I wanted parents to be abundantly clear that this is, you can opt out of that if you so choose. I needed to make sure that we were in keeping with state law, that parents will be informed no fewer than 5 school days and no more than 15 prior to those lessons occurring, giving them every opportunity to opt out should they choose to. I put in a section about homeless students. We do have some of those. I wanted it in paper that we're going to provide educational services according to McKinney-Vento. That wasn't in here before. I wanted to make sure that a little bit of a light was shined upon that so that students in that situation would know that we're going to take care of them according to the law and because it's the right thing to do. One quick change, and I think this is an important one. Student progress reports will be sent to parents each quarter. I wanted to put that it was going to be a conclusion of the quarter. We don't do a midterm grade, and I wanted that to be clear to all parents. The final change was my biggest change, and I'm going to read that policy. Students enrolling in Whitehall Elementary School's early literacy program in kindergarten are expected to be toilet trained and able to independently manage their toileting needs while at school. Independent toileting includes recognizing the need to use restroom, using the restroom with adult assistance, managing clothing, attending to personal hygiene, and appropriate for the child's age and development. I did put in a section in there that exceptions to that need to be outlined in the legal document of a health plan, an IEP plan, or a 504 plan. We recognize that occasional accidents can occur. They'll be handled with dignity and discretion. In the event that a student soils or wets his or her clothing, a parent, guardian, or emergency contact will be contacted and expected to come to school to assist the student and provide a change in clothing. We have seen an uptick in this in the elementary, and we wanted our parents to have some skin in the game. We need to potty train our kids. We're here to help, but we are not here to change pants because it did happen on far too many occasions last year. So wanted to send this message out that parents, we need your help with this, and your help will be expected. So kids can still come to school. We recognize accidents will happen, but we need the parents' help to change it so that my team is not cleaning up bodily fluids on what was happening on a weekly occurrence. Okay? Those are the changes that I had proposed. Please consider approving it. Any questions?
All right, do we have a motion to approve the proposed changes?
I motion to approve the proposed elementary handbook changes.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, approve 612 handbook provisions.
Mr. Slater?
So I also sent out some documents. As far as an update, there's a table at the end of this board copy. I go through and highlight the changes. The high school handbook or 612 handbook also reflects the updated Montana School Board Association board policy numbers as a general rule. Our handbooks are distillation of that board policy. Handbooks are one of those things I would just assume get smaller. In the last 26 years, I've never seen that. We adopt more policies every year as more and more things get put on schools. I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. As we do go through these, the different things in the updates, I'll draw your attention to. If there's any questions, please ask. I'm gonna go back to the table of contents, will be the easiest. Trustees, obviously I updated the names on the trustees. School board calendar. Cell phones is something, our school board policy is very clear in K-8 and then being prohibited from anytime during instructional day. In the high school, actually, our high school policy that's written here is very close to the same language of high schoolers are allowed to have them at passing time, lunch before school and after school. Okay, so working with that with my staff and to adequately enforce those things, that's what we're doing. So with the cell phone, one thing that will be a change in the middle school is they will be turned in and into safekeeping in the office, and then kids will check them back out. We'll be getting them back out 7th period. So this is really great from a learning perspective, from a school culture perspective, and it does support our existing board policy. AI policy and online, the language that's in there continues to evolve. With that, I'm gonna go to that page. Put on my glasses real quick. Too long. Did I not have the page number on there? The piece that we added had to do with this. We look, and I work directly with Mrs. Mullen on the online learning, if you go to page 15 on the edit, what do we do with kids that repeatedly take online classes and don't pass anything, right? So we continue to work with these students and provide them counsel on what's best for their education. I just put on here students who are not successful in passing the majority of their online classes will be required to return to in-person instruction the following semester. So it's just not endless, and they're not just signing up for classes that they never have any intention of doing or don't fulfill and doing. So that's why that was added. We've had some of that. This is more of a high school thing than a middle school thing. I also added a sentence in as far as valedictorian. This is also in school policy as far as just reiterating that we weight classes, and that's something that will be gone over with all of our kids at the beginning. Sometimes there's a question about that in the end. If a kid does choose to take more dual credit classes, they are weighted for more, and they can do that. They can actually move beyond somebody based on how much work that they do, and that has happened the last few years. Another piece is added on page 20 as we've worked with the Montana Youth Challenge program in Dillon. The last few years, we've had several graduates successful from there. That's an agreement that we have, and it's provided through Montana law. If they complete that and they get a certain score on the high set, which used to be the GED previously, so some people still know that language, but they do a great job down there in Dillon. We have several kids that have done well, completed youth challenge and went on to military service or jobs. I just put that in our handbook to recognize something that we're already doing. Human sexuality and identity instruction absence. That is something we got email from the school attorney across, and just something that's required to be in here, as well as what we do to notify students for our report cards. Similar to the elementary, we did add portrait of graduate attributes. This year, our staff will be able to report out on them. We're working out on the details on that, but trying to communicate. It's not part of their grade. It's just part of kind of like similar to previously in school. A lot of schools had things like citizenship grades, things like that to communicate how is your student doing in these attributes. So that's where that is. Page 28 is that sentence I talked about. It says honors courses receive greater grade point average, weightings in standard classes, are a factor in overall GPA. I had some parent discussions about that. I think one of the biggest gripes was making sure that we communicate that. So I need to make sure that we are communicating that out to the kids so they know. Kids inherently, in my experience, know where they're at with their peers usually as they go through high school. But just making sure that, yes, we do tell you this is the way it works. There are weighted classes. One of our goals, one thing that's changing, and I'm very proud of my staff at high school, this is in the handbook, just a little sideline, is the amount of dual credit that my staff has stepped up in offering, and more students that we have that are taking our in-person for our math and English. That's really nice. Changed and updated the electronic use agreement to reflect the one that was in board policy, getting rid of the one that was there previously. See if I missed anything. Oh, I got rid of something, which I was happy about that. Redundant language, it was in 2 spots about tardies. So like, if I could have got a page less, that would be success for me. Didn't happen. I think it's a page longer. Medicine at school, that was an update. Looks like I missed that. I'd have to go find the page number on that. Other than that, I believe I have all the changes. So what happened is I went through, updated the numbers with our school board policy, and also went through with our legal guidance to make sure all that stuff fits, and just updated. The cool thing about being able to use some AI tools, this is probably the most cleanly written, grammatically correct version of this in recent years. So.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
On the online classes, if a kid is not passing the majority of those online classes, you said that they were to come back to in-person school.
Mm-hmm.
If they choose not to do that, does that equal unenrollment?
So then they would have another educational option outside of our school. So then I would say, okay, you had our online
Which I
choice.
agree with. I was just curious as to if they don't choose that option.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I hate it when people choose that.
Right.
As part of parental choice. If they're not doing it and they won't come back, then they would have to choose their own. Instead of using our platform, they'd have to use their own homeschool.
Which is fair. I'm not, I was just questioning what the,
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the proposed changes?
I motion to approve the changes to the student handbook for the high school.
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we need a motion to approve the elementary claims and accounts.
I'll motion that the two approved elementary claims and accounts. Second.
Seconded, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we need a motion to approve the high school claims and accounts.
I motion to approve the high school claims and accounts.
I'll second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we need a motion to adjourn before we go to our special board meeting.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.
Principals, you don't need to feel like you need to stay. It's been a long day. You have first day of school
Forgive me if I
tomorrow.
seem eager to leave.
So you're welcome to stay, but I know you have the first day of school tomorrow, so.
I appreciate you all. Thank you. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you guys. Curtis,
Good luck
I have to
tomorrow.
sit through yours, you have to sit through mine.
You know what? I'll put that on my tab.
He'll be watching online.
I can't wait. I'm gonna go up and log in right now.
It's up to you, but you certainly can. There's no secrets here, so you certainly can.
All right, I call this meeting to order. You don't have to do much this time. So, new business, review Whitehall School District trustees' financial statements for 25-26.
Okay, we will start with the TFS, the trustees financial summary for the elementary school first, so if you want to kind of follow along, I'll say page numbers as I go through it. So the trustees' financial summary is a look back. It's a look back at how we have expended our revenue for the previous school year. So this covers fiscal year 25-26. The balance sheets generally speak to our ending fund balances, and some of this money ends up being reappropriated, which means it's used to reduce tax burden. Others, it's just essentially a savings account like our metal mines reserve fund. So it's giving our end balances on those various funds. However, once we get into page 15, then it goes fund by fund. And this is kind of more of the nitty gritty of it, and please stop me at any time. But governmental accounting, as you can see, is very complicated. All of those project and expenditure codes are standardized. These are not codes we make up. These are numbers that account for the funds in the various categories so that our auditor can then reconcile our actual books, which are in our Black Mountain accounting software, with this TFS, which you basically approve at this point in time. So every year we are audited based upon what is in this document and what is actually in our accounting system to ensure that those reconcile. So this document is important because it basically details all of the revenue we took in and how we expensed it out in the various categories. And you can see that for the bulk of our general fund, that is mostly used for our personnel salaries and benefits. In fact, really it's like the bulk of it goes for those purposes, and you can kind of see how those are broken down over the various types of support salaries and extracurricular, et cetera. Then moving on, page 18, that's a look at our transportation fund, and basically our revenue and our expenses in regard to that fund. You'll notice that we did, our expenditures exceeded our revenues in that fund, which meant we had to dip into our reserves, which thankfully we did have a reserve so that we could do that. However, when we get to our mills in our budget proposal for this year, you'll notice that we had to adjust our transportation mills so that we don't have that same effect, because certainly we can't live with our reserve every year and remain solvent. So, and obviously, transportation is one where it's just our best guess, because we don't know the price of diesel and we don't know the price of gas. And so we just kind of basically ballpark estimate what we think it's gonna cost, the increases that we know Harlow's has contracted to us, but also it's really the fuel costs that cause that to be very unpredictable. So that reserve is really important for us so that we don't obviously get insolvent or have to transfer money out of our general fund. That has not happened, but you'll see where we have to adjust our revenue this year to account for that. Our bus depreciation fund, this is our middle school bus, our second activity bus, however you want to term it, our older activity bus. We actually did completely depreciate it out last year. So this year, actually, we will not be depreciating anything out or levying the taxpayers for anything in that bus depreciation fund because it is fully depreciated out. Moving to page 21, this is the fund that I spoke about a lot over the course of last year, and this was our 112, our school food services fund. We did end up transferring $32,000 to that fund to leave it with basically an ending fund balance of $4,000 as seed money to start this year. But this is one we did have to supplement out of our general fund. We have budgeted for that this year because food costs are not going down. So we have that plan in mind. Page 22, this is Fund 13, our tuition fund. This is another one that varies a lot. There's two major expenses that come out of this fund. This is the fund that pays for our special education paraprofessionals that provide services directly to our special education students. But this is also the fund that pays districts that take in our students, if they've transferred out of district. Similarly, this is the fund where we put revenue if we have students from out of district. This is actually really a wash for us. It's pretty much the same amount in and out as far as students and revenue. It's, I think, what was it, like $2,000 difference? Yeah, so, really that ends up kind of being a wash for us, but it's a pass-through fund where we have to put the money in, take the money out. So this is one that can vary kind of wildly year to year. Page 23, Fund 14 is our retirement fund where we administer some of our employee benefits, making payments to PERS and TRS, et cetera. Page 25, this is Fund 15. This is our miscellaneous programs fund. So basically anything that doesn't fall under the previous funds, then we have a sub-fund. On page 25, you can see all of our sub-funds. These are a lot of our grants, so certainly our title grants, which, and then also our 21st Century, our big literacy grant, and then some smaller grants that you see, and then donations as well that come directly to the school from various groups. So these all have to be accounted for as well. They have their own funds, and basically on the remaining pages, it kind of goes over how each one of those were expensed out, what they were used for. Our title funds, which are grant funds, and then our Montana Reads were largely used for salaries as well as curriculum and professional development. On page 28, we have what's called our compensated absence fund. This is where we pay people out, like when they leave our employment, and we're paying them out for unused sick or personal days or vacation days. That is what the purpose of that fund is, so it doesn't have to have a huge value, but we do need to kind of estimate what we may need for that. Moving on to page 29, this is a fund that is very unique to schools in our area, which is the Metal Mines Fund. This is the fund that contains money from when the mine was actively mining. The remilling does not generate us revenue, even though they are capturing gold and arguably maybe more than when they mined it initially because of new technology. The tax was on the original revenue, and this was money that was apportioned to our school district for that. It is essentially a savings account. We have not used this money in quite some time, so that is just sitting there in case we need some sort of emergency purchase, such as roof, boiler, etc. Page 30 is our technology fund. This is probably one of our funds that is the smallest, but could really use a larger revenue source. Our current levy for the elementary is roughly $21,000. This is what the voters approved. This was years ago. The danger with running another technology levy is this levy is permanent. The new levy structure requires a situation where if the voters vote against the new levy proposal, then you lose your existing levy. So it's a risk to run a levy, and you definitely want to make sure that you run it at a time when you're confident that the public would pass it. And certainly with all of the changes to people's property taxes that have occurred over the past few years, and the misunderstandings and the confusion and all of the reassessed rates, like now is not the time to mess with anyone's tax rates. So certainly I'm not recommending that, but it is an area kind of where we are woefully underfunded and have to supplement it using other funding sources. The Flex Fund is where our Transformational Learning Grant and Advanced Opportunity Grants funding goes. This is on page 31. And those are relatively small amounts, but they do support our online learning program and our staff member that's associated with that. So still important to providing opportunities. Also pays for any tuition for our students who are in our dual credit classes. So any student that enrolls in a dual credit class with the Montana University system, once they exceed their 3 free credits, then they are charged a prorated tuition. It is less than if you were a college student, but we don't pass that cost on to the kids or families. We do pay for it using this grant fund, and I think that has really contributed to a lot of kids taking the classes who might not otherwise have, so definitely something we want to continue. Page 60 is our building fund. This is money that remains in there, or this is Fund 60, sorry, page 32. This is money that remains in there from a levy from long past. You can see it's not very much, but definitely something we can use towards our elementary building projects. The building reserve fund on page 33, this is money that actually gets incoming revenue, and this comes from the state, in large part through the state major maintenance aid, which was recently doubled compared to previous years in the last legislative session. There just is really a lot of unmet maintenance needs in schools across the state, a lot of deferred maintenance, and so the legislature has prioritized adding some additional funding to that. This is the fund that we are using to help pay for our siding and painting project in tandem with TIF. So that money will be expensed out in large part for that. Page 34 is our private purpose trust. This is our William Miller Fund in the elementary. This was a fund that was started years ago for the purpose of helping needy children. We are allowed to spend the interest only on it, but this certainly helps us pay for things like their athletic fees, or if kids need something specialized, or any sort of needs that where there's an expense attached that would otherwise prohibit them from participating in something. And at the very end, you can see the detailed kind of expenses kind of by category. That is a helpful look just to see what the bulk of our money goes to, which, as I stated earlier, is really to people, which are our most important asset, and certainly create the environment that we want for our kids. The final pages are our depreciation schedules of our assets. This is complex, and if you have questions, I will turn it over to Alyssa, who did all of the calculations, in part with the software. I know. But basically, we have to adjust the value of our land improvements, our buildings and machinery every single year, in keeping with their improvements, but also with the depreciation over time. And so you can see kind of how that plays out in that document. But I can't really explain it beyond that, so.
The auditors help me a lot with this, 'cause I don't know how much our land, well, they tell me how much the land is worth, so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and because this is governmental accounting, there are kind of actuarial practices which are applied to this, so it's not like commercial value. So because it's publicly held, so it is kind of a complicated calculation. But happy to revisit anything that I covered on any of those funds now or at any point in the future if you have questions. It's a fire hose.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you for the explanations.
Yeah.
So do we need to approve this for last year?
So this will be approved for elementary. Yeah, so it'll be an elementary vote, and then we'll move to the high school one, which is a replica, but different numbers.
We approved last year and this year.
Yeah, so you will approve the trustee financial summary for the elementary for last year, and then trustee financial summary for the high school, and then we'll move on to the budgets for this year.
All right,
Well, I move to approve the trustee financial summary for the elementary for 25-26.
A second.
second, any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Motion passes. All right, on to the high school.
So the high school follows the exact same like form as the elementary. The exception is that we do have an additional fund in the high school, which is our two additional funds, or actually three. Our adult ed fund, which is Fund 17, which funds our adult ed opportunities that we generally offer every year, variety of opportunities for our community. And then we also have the Traffic Education Fund, which is Driver's Ed Fund. Obviously don't need that for the elementary. And then our final one, and this is a newer fund for us, this is our lease rental fund, and this is the revenue from our preschool building. And that goes in that lease rental fund, and that is just held on the high school side of our accounting. And so those are three additional funds that you did not see when we went over the elementary. However, the rest of it follows the exact same format. It has the exact same type of information on each fund. However, you will see that the amounts are different, and this is because our revenue and expenses for the high school district are different. So I would be happy to go through all of those again if you would like me to.
Does everybody have a chance to review?
I did, yeah.
Does anybody need that gone over again?
Are you sure? It's a lot of fun.
All right, then we can move to a motion.
I love this.
Let's go. I can repeat it all if you
I move to approve the trustee financial summary for the high school 25-26.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, on to the budget for elementary.
Yes, so now we are moving on to our budgets, which is now this coming fiscal year. So this would be fiscal year 26-27, which is labeled as 27. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and I like to draw some comparisons from last year. So on this first page of the elementary, you have in front of you the taxable value of our entire district. So the current taxable value of our elementary district is $10,308,510. And we have current enrollment of 310 K-8. Last year, our taxable value was $8,847,626. So you can see that our taxable value of our elementary district has increased 1.46 million. So that is positive because that actually allows us to reduce our milling to make the same amount of revenue. We've held roughly steady with our enrollment, a change of 10 students. So nothing hugely significant there as far as enrollment goes. When you look at page 2, this is purely revenue. So we are not talking at this point about expenditures because we haven't yet expensed these funds. This is the adopted budget. So this is the amount of revenue that we receive for each fund. That's in column B. In column C is our reserves. So in the case of our transportation fund, we needed it last year. So our reserve limit our reserves can be adjusted year to year in accordance with our expenses and our needs. And you can see other revenue, which is contributing to that can be reimbursements from the state or the county. And then our fund balance has been reappropriated. If we had an ending fund balance, like for example, in our bus depreciation reserve, that's just rolling until we use it to purchase a bus. And then our property tax requirement, that is in column H. That is the amount of money that we need to mill for. And you can see that the recommended amount of mills in total is 87.89 mills. This is down 10.16 mills from last year. We were milling 98.05. So in large part, this is due to some restructuring that the legislature did as far as property taxes and how they're generating mills for schools, which is dependent less upon local milling and more upon county and state contributing to the revenue, but it is also due to our taxable valuation increasing. So that always has a positive effect as well. So the good news is that people should feel some reduction in their property taxes in our elementary district to where they say, oh, I paid less than last year to the school. Now, that doesn't mean that necessarily their entire tax bill will go down. We have no idea what the county is doing or, additional levies you might pay for other services, cemeteries, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we can tell you that the school part will be decreasing. So if their overall bill is going down, it is in part due to the school reducing the amount of mills. And the next pages go over each fund and the amount of revenue and how it is being generated and each of the sub-line items. So again, it follows the very same structure that the TFS follows, begins with the general fund, then works into our transportation, et cetera, in that same fund order. And you can see all the revenue. Again, this is revenue only and kind of the line items that it is slated for. A lot of these are zeros because we simply don't have coal revenue and some of these other things that are listed here. These are all the possible sources of revenue, but it does break down where is our money coming from, where are all these revenue sources. Again, you can see most of them aren't even things that apply to us, but the ones that do, you can see the exact amount that we're receiving for each one of those funds. So happy to answer any questions on any of that in detail if you would like. Just let me know.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Okay, then we can move on to a motion to approve the budget for elementary for next year, this year.
I motion to approve the budget for the elementary fiscal year 26-27.
Second.
Any questions, any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Motion passes. On to high school.
Okay, high school, again, following the same format, so, our taxable valuation is now 14,654, or 14,654,900. That is up 1.26 million, so slightly less, increase there that compared to our elementary, but up still. Looking ahead to our, summary page on page 2, again, we have adopted budget, our reserves, and unreserved fund balance reappropriated, our other revenue, and then our district property tax requirements. You will notice that we had to increase our transportation here quite a bit because our ending fund balance was only like $2,000. That was one where we cut it real close, and we can't be in that place again. So we did have to mill some additional for our transportation in particular. We already knew that. In fact, in March, you noticed the public about this. So in March, we did that notice to the public that we might change our levies, and the things that we addressed specifically were our tuition and our transportation that they might change. Tuition in part because it's fluctuating so much year to year depending on our needs, and transportation because we knew this was happening. We were like, we're gonna end the year with just barely enough. So we need to budget a significant amount more. So we have done so, and as a result, our mills are holding steady in the high school with an increase of 1/1500th of a mill. So it really will remain very much unchanged. But that was largely because transportation had to be adjusted significantly to make sure that we had enough for the coming years. So again, our revenue is explained fund by fund in the coming pages, same order again as our previous documents. You can see line by line where our revenue is coming from.
Everybody have a chance to review this? All
Is
right,
that mill increase within the amount that you don't have to seek a vote on it?
Yes,
Yeah.
so all of this is permissive.
Yeah.
These are, so our transportation and our tuition funds are permissive levies. we could increase it by 100 mils if we
Without
wanted
having
to,
to.
without, yeah.
Okay,
So, this is what the purpose, one of the functions of this board is to approve these, yeah, so, there have been years where we've had to increase by like 5 or 7 mils, especially with tuition, if we get a student that has significant high needs and
Right.
that kind of stuff, so, this is one of the rare cases where we're actually reducing and holding steady.
Yeah.
This is actually more uncommon for us.
Okay. I can't remember, did we get a motion?
no,
No.
All right, bring it on.
A motion to approve the fiscal year 2027 high school budget.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That is it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do.
Grace?
I will second.
You have to sign all these before we leave. You don't get to leave.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Just sign out of here. Nope, you get